regular letter. Then basically, depends on what's the purpose of document and image you want to convey and knowledge of audience. You have to consider all that before you choose your font type and font size. Anyway, let's move on. Now, all these are technical, basically information that we will cover in Microsoft Word user guide. And when we choose a font style, we have to consider readers, company's preference, consider the need for clarity, space availability, purpose of the document, and tone you want to convey. So basically, we can choose, basically, you can underline it, you can bold it, you can basically italics, or you can make it full, basically capital letter. As far as navigation, it will be basically how to go from one page to another. And designing digital documents, basically, it will show in Microsoft Word. Okay, so let's watch our last video. It will show functions of actually this one, Microsoft Word, how to use heading, format, and table of content. Now this actually video might be quite long, so I might actually stop in the middle of it because I just wanted to get some idea. But as I told you, you can basically find any kind of manual or instruction that you want to know in the YouTube. Just going to this portion here, how to do search. Let's say if you type a design document, it will show a lot of videos related to design document. Or you can even type a Microsoft basically Word manual. Then it will give you a lot of videos from Microsoft as well as from other institutions. Okay, let's watch this. As we have learned, in Microsoft already have basically all these headings and different basically type of headings, and basically you can select different shape on this portion. So headings, different style, and you basically you can have a different you can choose your font sizes, bold, underline it, and you can even choose different colors basically on this function. And if you want to actually put your heading on the center or right or left, then this is a home page, and if you want to insert basically if you like to actually insert something, you can go to insert. If you finish your pages, you go to page layout. And if you want to put the references, some footnote, you can go into references, and you can review it and revise it. And basically, you can. It has basically a lot of functions that we don't really use in day to day. And also, this one also has editing functions where a lot of professional actually writer use it. So, on your computer, you can click all these different buttons and basically try to understand those topics, and your computer will not break even you basically hit different buttons. Okay, let's watch this video and see what we can learn.
Clark, this is the first in a number of tutorials using Microsoft Word. We're using the current version of Word, which is 2010, with all the current Microsoft updates applied to it. The purpose of this tutorial is to look at the use of headings, heading numbering, and table of contents to create a scientific document. We're assuming that you're going to be using a standard scientific document format, the kind of format we use for writing reports, thesis, templates and things like that. We're going to be using headings, so heading 1 as a chapter, for instance, heading 2 as a subheading for a chapter, and then heading 3 as a subheading to a subheading. And we're also going to assume that you'll be using a standard numbering format so that chapter numbers will be labelled 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And then subheadings will be 1 or 2 or 3 with a decimal after it, followed by the number of the subheading. So for instance, the first subheading in chapter 2 will be 2.1, and then that will be followed by subheadings which will be 2.1.1, 2.1.2, etc. We're going to be then creating a table of contents which will update automatically, or update when you click on ask it to update as you create your document, and we're going to be adding some text into the document, and then in latter tutorials we'll be coming back and putting in some figures and sorting out some numbering and some referencing for figures and sections. So we're going to start by just setting up our headings and setting up our heading numbering. As I said, we're using the standard version of Word with a standard template. This is the template that opens when you open Word. And this is a normal document on the screen here. You'll notice in the Home tab at the top, on the right here, you've got a series of options for various styles. These are the style palettes. And Word by default gives you normal, no spacing, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, etc. And there's another whole page of this with all various bits and bobs in it. The ones we're concentrating on this tutorial are normal, heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3. So I'm just going to start by starting off by writing my first heading number, and this will be chapter 1. So we're starting our little book. I've prepared in my paste buffer the standard lorem ipsum text. So there we are, there's our standard lorem ipsum text, full of spelling mistakes, you can see, because it's all in Latin. And after that, I'm going to put in chapter 2, followed by the same text. And then within chapter 2, I'm going to do section 1 within chapter 2, put some more text in, and in chapter 1, section 1, and section 2 I'm going to put in. So you can see I'm just basically populating the various parts of this, and I'm going to do a subsection. And then, so now I've got, here we are, I've got some text, I've got chapters, I've got a couple of sections with a subsection and another chapter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to format this basic text in the format that I want my final chapters to look, my final report to look like. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to decide everything's going to be in Times New Roman rather than Calibri, which is the default, just to give us a bit more editing options. So first and foremost, let's start with our chapter numbering. We highlight our first chapter, or just click on our first chapter, and we call it heading 1. So immediately it's formatted this chapter in the format that Word wants heading 1 to be. It's kind of a blue colour, so I'm going to highlight this, make it black to start with, and then choose Times New Roman. I'm happy with point 14, although I'm tempted to make it point 16 point font, just to give it a little bit more impact. And I'm also going to give it a little bit of space after. You can see this paragraph is kind of bunched up with the text below, and because this is a chapter, I'm going to go to the paragraph here and add a little bit of space, and 12 points of space, and you can see now it's spread out a little bit more. I'm quite happy with that. So if I select chapter 1 and then go over to the style menu, and instead of left clicking, I right click, I can then choose update heading 1 to match selection. And now you can see heading 1 has changed, the text here has changed to this black text. So I can now go down to chapter 2, I can call that, there we are, heading 1, so that's now chapter 2. So let's do section number 1. Again, click on section 1, I'm going to call this heading number 2. And again, Word is formatted in a blue colour in Cambria font, so I'm going to select that, change it to Times New Roman, make it black, and again I'm going to put a little bit of space after it. Not as much in the chapter, and I'm fairly happy with that, so I'm going to right click now and update heading to match selection, and now heading 2 is set to black. So I can go to section 2, assign that, and then section 1 of chapter 2, assign that. So now we've got all our, wrong one, there we are, then I've got all my headings and titles set up quite nicely there. And the last one is my subsection, so I click on subsection and choose heading 3. And again, it's done it in blue and bold and Cambria, so I change that to Times New Roman, black. I think I'll leave it bold, but I'll leave it at size 11, I think. That's size 13, and that is size 16, so I quite like the layout they've given me there. So now I'm happy with subsection, I'm going to update it here as well. There we are, updated. And then I need to look at my text, because I'm using Times New Roman for everything else, but my body text is in Calibri. That's the normal paragraph format. So I might as well just select one of these paragraphs, change this to Times New Roman. It's set to Times New Roman 11. I'm not going to argue with Word in this case. I'd probably leave it at size 12, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to leave it at size 11. Right-click on my normal here and go Update. And now you can see automatically all my other paragraphs are updated. I could change my mind to a later date and change that to 12, and then of course all my other normal paragraphs will update to size 12 as well, so there's no real worries about this. I mentioned at the beginning that it's often normal in scientific reports and theses and other such things to number each of your chapters and number each of your sections. Well, Word has thought about this, and there is a drop-down box that does it all automatically for you, so you don't need to type in 1, space, 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 etc. You can just go up to this drop-down box up here, and you can choose an option from this second section. So at the moment you can choose list library. I think this one here is a standard scientific format. You can see 1, 1.1, 1.1.1, so click on that, and lo and behold now your chapter and your section numbers are all nicely numbered all the way through. And you can see it carries on as it should do. 1 is chapter 1, 1.1 is section 1, 1.2, and then you've got 1.2.1 as a subsection, which is great. And if I wanted to add another subsection under here, I can just type subsection 2, go to heading 3, and there we are. There's subsection 2 with our lorem ipsum text underneath it. So that's all looking like a thesis right now. It's looking quite good. You've noticed I've not changed the justification on these texts. I've left it just left justified. That's absolutely fine for the moment. So I'm just going to save that so we know where we're at. Save it in chapter 1. And now I'm going to insert my table of contents. So to insert a table of contents, you can go to the References tab, and you can just click on Table of Contents. And there are options for you here. You can do an automatic table of contents. They've got number 1 and number 2 as predefined table of contents. But you can also insert a manual table of contents. Of course, this would defeat the object of doing it all automatically, which we're trying to do in this situation. So I'm going to choose the one at the bottom here and actually design it myself. So click on Insert Table of Contents. And now you can see here we've got heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3. As a preview, it looks fairly horrible, frankly, so we're going to have a little look at that. We're going to modify it, and then we're going to have a look at each of these bits in turn. So Table of Contents 1 is my chapter titles, and I'd like to have them quite big and bold because I want to draw the eye to them. So I'm going to click on the Modify button, and I'm going to choose them to be Times New Roman 14, and I'm going to make sure they're bold, and they're left justified, and that's all great. I'm going to click on the Format and just go to Tabs and make sure that, the second tab, which is 15.9 centimetres, is a right-aligned tab with the numbers, so that's leave that as it is. Press OK. Table of Contents number 2, which is our subheading or our subchapter. We can click on that and go to Modify. I'm going to leave this at 12 Times New Roman. Again, go to the Tabs menu and just check that the second tab, 15.9, is automatically right and with dots, which is fine. And in the third, Table of Contents 3, I'm going to modify that, have a little look. Times New Roman 11, well, let's make that 12. Actually, no, let's leave it at 11. Leave it as it is. Format the tabs, make sure they're all set up right. Brilliant. Everything else we can change in the text, because if you go to the Modify button, you'll notice here that Automatically Update is set on for each of these Table of Contents sections, which means if you change anything in the document, it'll automatically update the formatting for all of the TOC3s, the Table of Contents Level 3s, which is great. So press OK, press OK, press OK for the last time. And there we have our Table of Contents. You can see that the tabs are a bit off for subsection formatting paragraphs, so I can just highlight on one of those and I can just drag those in so that my subsections are set up the way I want them to be set up. Put that one there. That looks nice. And you can see also there seems to be a little gap underneath this, so I can go back to Home, choose Paragraph, and you can see it's got 5 points. Just turn that on. And there we are. So there's our table of contents, Chapter 1, Chapter 2 with all the subsections. That looks fairly nice. So I can change this now to Introduction, and I may want to change Chapter 2 to my Materials and Methods. And although I've changed these, of course my table of contents hasn't changed at all. So if I click on it and then right click and choose Update Field, you can see now it's automatically updated the introduction and the materials and methods. And you can see I've only got 2 sections, so I can label this subsection background, for instance, label this subsection my hypothesis, this can be aims, this can be my methodology used, for instance, materials and methods. I can call this method 1. So I've renamed a few of the paragraphs, and let's say I put new text in. I can right click here, choose update, and you can see immediately it's updated my table of contents to fit, and the table numbers are all correct and everything looks brilliant. Materials and methods introduction, I want to make them stick out a bit more, so for this purpose of this I'm just going to click on paragraph and add a little bit of space beforehand. There we are, that stands out a little bit more. So you can see now it's very, very quick and easy. If for instance I want to start the introduction on a new page, I can either go insert page break, and there we are, that starts on a new page, and materials and methods, click there, insert page break, and now the introduction starts on a new page and the methods start on a new page. So I can right click here, update, and I can update the entire table, and you can see immediately now it's updated all our page numbers. I can format my table of contents so it looks nice and big and bold. And that's the simple way of setting up a template. Now of course you can just fill in the blanks, keep adding text, remembering that when you add a subheading to choose heading 2, and when you choose a sub or a extra heading, you can choose heading 3. If you want to extend the heading 4, you need to go back to your table of contents and redesign it and add another subheading. But to be honest, things get a little bit complicated when you end up with section 1.1.1.1, so it's quite easy to format a document to only contain 3 levels, so 1, 1.1 and 1.1.1. So I hope that helps. That's a quick, easy way of setting up templates. We're going to stop this now, and the next tutorial will be on inserting figures and captions.
Okay, so basically, as you can see, this was another tutorial material in YouTube, and you know, the more functions that you understand in Microsoft Word, it will make your life much easier, especially writing a technical communication writing. Some documents, proposal, report, business plan. Long time ago, before these computers came out, we had to do all the typewrittens, and we had to basically, do it everything manually. But basically nowadays we have a computer, which basically enhance your writing and make your life much easier. Okay, we're actually finished here today. Thank you.